Hello and welcome to the Summer Search Updates webinar. My name is Valerie Steffen and I'm part of Bright's training team. I'm really excited to be sharing with you that Bright is going to be updating search, maps, emails, contacts, and more to improve your search experience within the system. What's included are new features just to sort of enhance that experience, and also updates that have been requested by subscribers. These are scheduled to be implemented on June 22nd. So on the agenda today, we're going to take a tour of what your clients will see, what you as a subscriber to Bright will experience, and then a special sneak peek of another enhancement that's coming a little later on this year. So first, what you may not notice, but your client will. And that is a more modern and mobile-friendly email. These emails, when they include listings, will include abbreviations of beds, baths, and square footage, because we know presentation and client relationships are key to you. We'd encourage you to go ahead and communicate about this change to your client, just out of an abundance of caution. We know everyone is more vigilant and sensitive about internet security, so we want to make sure any change is brought to your attention and, of course, to your clients. What you're looking at here is a screenshot of how an email would render when looked at through the Outlook email platform. So keep in mind there could be slight variations just based on what email provider your client might be using. So what you see here is a little more modern font in the email, and that will be used throughout the different types of email, whether you're manually sending email to your clients or sending auto email through the system. Though I would note that if you do have a special, email signature with custom fonts uploaded to the system, nothing's going to change with that. It's not going to alter, anything in your email signature. We've also mobily optimized the listing details. So we know that your clients may be viewing email from you, maybe on their phone or a tablet. So we've just made sure that the email is a little more mobile responsive, so they'll have a great experience regardless of what device they happen to be taking a look at your information on. And the other thing I'd mention is that we just made the link to the client portal or other calls to action more prominent. So next up, the agent view. So there are changes or tweaks that have happened on search, map, results, contacts, concierge, and MLS settings. So we'll touch on each of those throughout the system. And my disclaimer here is that we're going to look at these on our test site because they are not obviously live in the system yet. So there may be a few things that are a little different here, and I'm using test data. So you'll see some things are blurred out just because of the nature of where we're looking at this. So first up, since we were on a roll talking about clients, let's talk about client-related features. And one of those is the Concierge Map. And we have added to the Concierge feature, which if you're not familiar, is a setting in auto email that allows you to vet matches to auto emails, either approve or reject the matches, instead of having a traditional auto email where everything is sent directly to your client. With Concierge, you pick and choose. So we've added that map tab feature so that you are able to go ahead in there and do a little more information gathering, get a little more perspective. And you'll notice that the layers feature is included in there as well. So if you like to apply, say, the school district boundaries layer or something like that, you can use that tool as well. The next change related to your contacts or clients is to the contacts section itself. So you still have a contact list, this one-line view. The existing functionality remains the same. We've just redesigned a little bit for improved readability and accessibility. So for instance, if you like to activate and set inactive your individual contacts, or you like to export your contact list or even delete contacts, you still have that option. You'll just find those options tucked in the top left-hand side of the screen under the Bulk Actions tool menu. And if you like to import as part of adding to your contacts, you'll see that feature located in the top right under the Add menu. Now, also on the screen, you have an option to access a new view, and that is the gallery view option. You can toggle between the gallery view and the standard one line you're accustomed to using and, kind of get a feel for which one you prefer. I would mention that you also have a new page, which is the detailed contact view. So just like in the existing system, in order to access more information or more functionality about an individual contact, you'll click on that contact's name. In the existing system, it would just sort of bump the list down and expand the page. Now it's going to take you to a separate page. And this page gives you kind of at a glance access to activity and additional options regarding that contact. So at the top, there's sort of a tab section here where you can look at details. You can take a look at the auto emails that are saved for that client. You can view listings you've saved in carts associated with that contact, CMAs you've created for them, email that you've sent to them, searches you've saved for them, portal searches, which are those searches that your contact has created and saved for themselves within the client portal. And then we also have a new option called Reverse Prospect. And I should say that this is sort of a new consolidated view. So when you click on that option, you're going to be able to see a view or a look at what listing agents may have contacted you regarding this individual contact having an auto email set up that their listing is a match for. Now, note, you have to have reverse prospecting enabled for that search and for this contact to be able to access this feature. Otherwise, there's nothing going to be in there anyway if you're not using that feature. If you want to see more detail, you can click the link that says view there. It's going to show you a short report view of that individual listing that was a match and that the listing agent contacted you about, and just a little more detail. So, when the client would have been sent that listing, if they viewed it, the last time they were in their portal, if there are any notes that were created either from you or your client about that listing, you would have access to all of those there. Your standard features are available if you need to edit. There is a little pencil icon where you can do that. Next, if it's your own settings that you need to edit, when you go under Account and Settings, MLS Settings, you'll note that the settings have a new look, a set of icons that are a little bigger, a little more modern look. They're going to make it easier for you to set up or update your search and client portal and any other MLS settings. Now let's head over to look at some search updates. There's now an option on the Search Criteria tab to select all or select none of the listing statuses with a single click. We've also added a kickout field, and that's so that you can easily search to include or exclude those active under contract listings that have a kickout clause on the agreement of sale. The bonus here is that you can search active under contract status with or without kickout clause and other statuses like active at the same time. It's important to note that like other fields that include a yes, a no, and a blank at the top, if you choose to reset that you don't want to include that kickout clause criteria any longer, just be sure to set the drop-down back to blank. Before we move on from here, I will also point out that we have a few updates with regard to what you see in terms of icons. So again, it's just a little bit different look, both at the top of the page for the tabs and the button bar at the bottom, and those little help question marks that you see throughout the page. I'd also point out the recent searches section. It now opens from the right-hand side of the page. We've made the descriptions a little bigger, a little clearer. So if you're looking for a recent search, it's a little clearer which is which. And of course, if you would want to take a look at the results from a recent search, you could just click on that description. Or if you want to close this, you click on the arrow to close it. And again, this is another area where the functionality is more enhanced for our mobile users. Coming over to the map tab, probably the first thing that you would notice here is that the map now takes up the full width of the browser. And that is something that we've had many requests for. You'll notice the icons on this page as well are a little bigger and a little clearer. Also, the little tooltips, which is what you see when you hover on the icon as a reminder as to what that icon is. Those have been updated. And there's a couple of cool new features that are included in this page as well. The day of the week has been added to the INRIX drive time. So that day selector is going to allow you to specify the day of the week as well as the drive to or from a targeted location and the time and the duration of the drive that the person is interested in. So this is really going to provide insight on how drive times vary from day to day. If searching by drive time, you can specify that day of the week. And where my mind immediately went was everyone who's working on behalf of our maybe Friday afternoon commuters. And just to give a personal experience here, I worked in King of Prussia, but I lived in South Philly. So a Friday afternoon commute when I was also in warmer weather dealing with shore traffic was something that I was really concerned about. And I can also see that this would really work if maybe you're working with a client who has a non-traditional schedule that you have to keep in mind. Now, another thing that you may note if you happen to be working with, say, a couple or, multiple parties where you have multiple drive times to consider, what you can do is add your first drive time, and we can pick, again, use that great day of the week, and then maybe you want to add a second drive time on top of it. But you want to make sure both parties are going to be happy with that drive time. What you can do after you've added the second one is click on the red dot and then choose the new feature, Include Intersection Only. And that Include Intersection Only, as you can see on the screen, it cleared out the listings that aren't in that happy spot, the overlap area where everyone's got a commute that they like. So I use drive time for this example. It would also work if, you're drawing a freehand polygon or a radius search or whatever it is where you have two overlapping shapes. The next one I would mention that's included in here is a new feature for map layers. So Bright is now offering a set of MLS Status Map Layers. It's going to give immediate visualization across the entire market by displaying a smaller color-coded pin within the parcel of all properties of a certain status, regardless of the search criteria that you've included. So layers are going to be available at the same zoom levels, which display parcel boundaries, and each pin can be clicked to view relevant information, just as you can do when you're clicking on a parcel. So I was thinking how I would probably use this is maybe I'm looking at new hot sheet listings on the map. I can turn on the layer of recent sold listings to kind of quickly gauge the relative urgency and value in that area. Or maybe you are doing comps for a neighborhood. And so you've been pretty specific, Generally, if you're pulling comps for like a listing presentation, you keep your criteria pretty apples to apples, but maybe you just want to turn on, say, the solds in the past, maybe 6 months, past 3 months, whatever, just to make sure if during the listing presentation, the seller brings up a neighbor next door who just sold their house that wouldn't have come up when you were pulling your actual comps because maybe it's, a vastly different property. Maybe it's, has a different number of beds and baths or is in an entirely different price category. But you would still have knowledge then of what's going on with that. So as I turn on the MLS status, you see here that if it is an off-market status, you do have an additional drop-down where you can see the time frame that you're interested in. So maybe you only want to say sold in the past 3 or 6 months. Now, based on our current inventory situation, I don't think it's shocking that turning this on did not explode the screen with maps, but just to point out that we do, in fact, have a little green pin up there by 422, and that would be the MLS status. We can see green indicates active. Our little drop down shows us what the legend of what the colors mean. And you'll see that that pin is pretty small and distinctive as compared to our individual listing pins that came back. So now let's move on to results. So with our results here, you'll see that we've added a couple new features here as well. One is the ability to go into your single line view and sort by up to 3 individual sort headings. Now, you can do this in the current system. You would just go to refine and sort, and then you can add as many level sort as you choose. It's just a couple extra clicks to do that. And you'll still have that functionality even after we push these enhancements, but this just makes it a little bit easier. So for instance, you notice right here, I'm sorting by status. Maybe I also want to sort by price. So I can just click on the price heading and you'll notice it's pointing down. So my lowest price is at the top. Maybe I also want to add beds, so I can click on that as well. And you'll notice if I hover on the arrow, it's going to tell me what my sort hierarchy is. So primary, secondary, and tertiary here. And the one that I clicked on most recently is going to be my top level, my primary. So you can change the order just, again, by the order that you click on them. If you want to change from descending to ascending, you would just click on the arrow again, and then it would point up instead of down, and it would flip your sort order. The next change that I will mention is another time saver. And this one is the ability to navigate back and forth between displays and the one-line report. So what's going to happen as I do that, the one line will remember your place on the page. So say you're going through your list of results, and maybe it's your hot sheet, or maybe it's a really long list of comps or something that you're looking at. And as you're interested in a property, perhaps you're clicking on the MLS number to view the full report and get a little bit more information. And then maybe you're using the browser's back button, or maybe you're clicking on the link that comes up. And let me just click on one here that says Agent One Line Display. That's going to take you back to your original results list. What happens is it's going to remember where you are in sort of your vertical line here. Now, this I only have just 7 results, so it's not a big difference here. But if, say, I had multiple pages, so if you are somebody who, I just have it set to look at 25 listings per page, maybe you have 250. This is going to help you by not making you, once you return to this page, have to scroll a bunch to find your position. So those are the highlights of what's coming. Now I want to show you what's next on the drawing board for coming enhancements. And this is a real time-saving and accuracy-boosting way to enter your listings. So Bright has been working for some time on what we're calling a listing assistant. It's currently in beta testing, and right now we're projecting it for release in the third quarter. And again, my disclaimer here is it is on a test site. It's on limited availability, and because we're beta testing it, there is potential based on the feedback that we're receiving that some of the screens may tweak and change before we roll it out to all subscribers. And in fact, it's very likely. That's the whole point of beta testing, is to really get a feel for how users would prefer that it work and what makes sense for the end user. So without further ado, this is really about simplifying the search for the listing in the tax records and gathering up previous instances in the MLS of this listing, regardless of property type. So when you go in and you click New Listing in Listing Management, you'll do your normal stuff, choose what type of property, choose the structure type, choose the ownership interest, click Next, and now you're going to see a basic box where you can enter the address of the property you are listing. So I will point out that you do have an option for an advanced search right beside it. And that advanced search actually is just going to show you the search that you're currently using in the system. So if you're having a little trouble finding something, or you want to use additional fields, that advanced search option still is available for you. Now, as I type in the address, you're going to see that it gives me options. So I can just click on that correct option out of the list that comes up. And then I can next select up to 4 options for comparison. So the tax record and then 3 more if I choose to. And mine, conveniently, my example here only has 4 options, but you may end up having, depending on the property, a whole list of them. Of course, I want the tax record and then probably, what's most recent. Now I can go back because, again, remember, maybe these options that came back were not, in fact, the property that I need to list. So I could click on that advanced search option and I could use those other fields if I needed to. There's also a proceed without tax record option if it's new construction or for whatever reason the property does not have a tax record. Maybe it's subdivided and the tax record isn't up to date. So you do have option from this page as well to proceed without tax record. But we would, of course, strongly encourage you to use this feature to look it up so that you're expediting your process doing this. Because in our testing so far, this potentially speeds up listing entry up to 3 times. And it eliminates, if you are a person who, before you enter your listing, you go to the tax records and pull up the information as part of filling out a property profile sheet, and you take a look at the previous listing records that are out there and gather information through that because, maybe the homeowner doesn't remember the voltage on the electrical box or whatever. So you do that research ahead of time. Instead of manually having to do that whole process, we're just streamlining it so that you can take a look at it all in one place, kind of laid out in a comparison. We're going to flag anything that is contrasting between the different options that you've selected. So right here, it's showing me in blue in the far left column is my new listing that I'm working on creating. Next to that, the next tab on the right is the tax records, and I can see it's the most current year that we're in. And beside that are the other previous listings. I can see the map location that was pinned for each one of those. So I can choose to use the one that I know is correct. And right at the top, any of the conflicts are called out. You see your little triangle with the exclamation point icon. And then side by side, I see all of the individual information. So I can decide which one I believe to be the most correct. And of course, I can always clarify if I need to. Checking something does not mean it's set in stone. You can always go back and update as needed. And I'll scroll through and I can look at it. So the information that is not in conflict is included below as well. So you do have access to view all of that. But we're just highlighting or calling out what is different at the very top of the scrollable area. Now, underneath the tab headings, you'll notice there's an option to copy all data. So when I click on that, it's going to take everything from the tax record in this instance and just scoot it into my new listing. If I change my mind, I now have an option at the top under the My New Listing tab heading to clear that all out. If I just want a one-off sort of pick and choose, I can click on the individual fields arrow and that scoots that item over for me. So you can do one-offs if you prefer, or again, you can copy it over. And should I change my mind and say, oh, maybe it wasn't the tax records, maybe now I want to do that first listing, our third option where my mouse is, I can click copy all data. And even if I've already copied one over, that'll overwrite those fields. And of course, it's only going to copy over the data that exists in that individual listing. If you change your mind, you do have your X on the field to get rid of it even after you changed your mind. If you want to see for anything that is a multi-level, like say the levels in rooms, that's got a lot of information in that section. If I click on that, you can see it's a hyperlink there. It's going to open and I have the option to use all that data, or I can X. An important point that I want to make here is that what you see for the individual listing is going to vary individual to individual. And what I mean by that is, say the one in the very middle column, that was my listing previously, then I will see the option, and it's not on this screen because it wasn't my listing previously, I'll see an option to reuse the photos for the listing. Because they're my photos, I have the copyright on them. I'll see the option to move over the remarks because those are the remarks that I wrote. I can use them again. I would also see the option if I had uploaded documents with the property, because again, they were my documents. It was my listing. I can copy them over if I want to. If it was not my listing, so say the one on the end is not my listing, I will not have any of those options. I will not have access to copy photos. I will not have access to use the remarks. I will not have access to copy over the documents because those weren't my items. And we know, of course, with photos, there's copyright considerations, so that's not even going to be a possibility. Now, once you've finished updating your listing, you can proceed, and then you're going to come into the full edit form. You can always go back and update anything you copied over. I didn't copy much on this option, so I still have quite a few of these red dots, which indicate empty required fields that I need to fill out. But that's going to be up to you how much or how little of the information that you want to have the system populate. I hope you're excited about this feature. It's going to be such a time saver and an accuracy booster. The whole idea here is that we're trying to streamline the process for you, especially in the time and place we are now where things are moving so quickly. Anything we can do to make the process quicker and our clients happier is what we want to do. So I thank you so much for your time today. I want to direct you to brightmls.com/search updates, different videos, and more in depth about each one of these enhancements. Have a bright day.